We hear a lot of perspectives on the ManKind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the ManKind Project USA.
Get out the confetti, the streamers, the balloons, the cake, because it is our birthday. For those that are joining us live, let me see if I can do this. Those that are joining us live, oh bugger, I don't have it. Mac has this really cool thing where you can make like confetti
fly
and things and go.
Yeah,
and
we're not doing
most
that.
of you listen, most of you don't watch anyway. This is the ManKind podcast.
The show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove
that there is, in fact, more than one way to be a man. We are simplifying manhood in all of its forms.
We are dealing with the complex, overlapping issues and diverse perspectives of manhood that make it really complex to be a human in this world.
Don't listen to Boysen. It's easy. It's simple. Just do as we say. That's all you got to do.
Brandon tells you to do.
Sign up for my Herbalife downstream, and everything will be fine.
Oh my gosh,
everything will be fine. Just trust in the process. 5 years, dude. 5
yes.
years.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you, man. This podcast is older than my kid. Like, wow.
That's wild.
Yeah, dude.
So what are we doing? We're gonna check in, yeah?
Yeah, let's
to
check
start
in.
us off.
Yeah. I'll kick it off, man. Any day now. Baby Cliff number 2 is coming any day now. We get all these little moments and these symptoms, and then nothing for 24 hours. And wouldn't it be nice if this kid would just come on? Like, it would be really convenient if you came at 2 p.m. on Saturday. That would be wonderful. But
oh wow,
as the parents in the room know, that is not. Kids have other plans.
Just doesn't happen that way. But we'll hope that it happens like right now while we're recording. I think that would be
I would
fun.
love that. Yeah, there are certainly some appointments later today I want to get out of. So yeah, that would be great.
What else are you checking in with?
Just joy. A lot of joy. Not a lot of fear coming with this one. You're like, okay, we've been here before. But yeah, just a ton of joy. Work is just amazing. I don't know. To say I love my work is just so cool, and I'm not lying, which is nice. And I recognize that that's not the case for a lot of people, but I also created it. A lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears went into it, and it's not always great. I can tell you that. But right now, it's in a really good season. I love my clients. I love my hours. So yeah, a lot of gratitude for that, because I try not to let work be everything, because we know that trap. We know what happens to fathers who get absolutely consumed by their work.
I think we've done some podcast episodes on it.
A bunch, right? So yeah, that's me. I'm in with that. It's just a wonderful season right now, and I'm just in reverence and awe of my wife. She's incredible, amazing. What a lucky kid to have a mom like her.
Nice. Thank you. That's beautiful. The podcast is older than your first child, and here comes your second child.
Oh, no.
And Bindy's like a regular guest on our podcast conversations anyway. Maybe not on the podcasts themselves, but on the podcast
she busts through that door behind me and loves to grab on the mug and go, "Hi, Boysen."
right up. Hi, Boysen. Boysen checking in. I have a big mix today. It's New England. It's beautiful outside. It's still snowy, but it's warmer. I'm grateful for that. I'm very deeply grateful for my relationship with my wife. Grateful that my kids are well and doing their lives. And yeah, right. My kids are much older now than when we started the podcast. That's also wild. And I'm sitting with some fear and sadness. Good news, and my dad's going through some medical stuff right now, and I want to say I'm deeply grateful for my brothers, and especially my brother Weston, my older brother Wes, who's with my dad down in Florida right now as he's going through some stuff. So I'm feeling the fear. Dad's 84 and he's generally healthy and he's generally doing very well and he's okay right now. So I'm in with that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thoughts and prayers with you around your dad, and I hope you get down there in the next day or so. So, yeah. And that's the beauty of this, man. Like there's a plethora of things happening in our lives, and we don't withhold that in this space. And we haven't done so for 5 years now, which is wild, really wild. We're about to hit episode 250 in the next coming weeks. So milestone there. We're knocking on, I think next month we'll hit 250,000 downloads, which is wild. That's 250,000 hours of conversations and content being absorbed by human beings and their lives. And I think a cool place to just kick things off is we do this for our listeners, plain and simple. Like, okay, how can we have impact? We love this stuff. We know it works. By inviting these guests who maybe have PhD next to their name and have dedicated their lives to studying manhood and masculinity and all of the complexities that come with showing up as a man and all of our different roles. By having these conversations, you all get the gift of going second, so you can have them and you know, take those tools and take those things and apply them. But really, we also selfishly get to be in the seat to learn from our guests as well and from these conversations. And so I'm scanning 250 episodes going like, oh, wow, my life changed there. Oh, wow, I applied that technique there. Oh, wow, that landed with me. Oh, wow. Like, it's been really cool. So, Boysen, I want to ask you, what have been some moments, or even if you can't locate a specific moment, what's the impact been on your life having been a part of these conversations the past 5 years?
It's expansion, right? Like, I say it on the podcast all the time. I'm nerdy. I've been nerdy for a long time. I've always been a like reader and listener and investigator in these spaces, thinking about men and masculinity and men's work and gender and all of this stuff. And then I get to be in the room and ask questions and really engage with folks who have made cutting edge like breakthroughs and bringing things out into the culture. And I can't tell you how many times every week when I'm in a conversation and it's like, oh yeah, and I can reference back to, oh yeah, in the mythopoetic world, let's talk about all of the conversations we've had with Douglas Gillette. Let's talk about the Axis Mundi. Let's talk about shadow. Let's talk about archetypes. Let's talk about mythopoetics in the kind of gender world. Let's talk about Niobe Way. Let's talk about Mark Green. Let's talk about in the manosphere world. Let's talk about Will Adolphi. Let's talk about, in the pornography world. Let's talk about Craig Pera. Let's talk about like all of these things where it's like, my life is richer, and the connections that I've made and also brought, like, I hope that listeners out there feel connected to some of these folks who we've brought into the podcast. I think we're expanding a network.
Mm. Yeah. Downstream, right? Look what's happened downstream. And just as a result of chucking on a mic, budgeting some time, doing a little bit of scheduling, and then you turn on the mic oftentimes with an idea of how you think it's going to go, and then it goes the complete different direction and it becomes something even more beautiful. There's like an alchemy that comes from two humans coming together, and they just happen to be in a place in their lives individually in that moment, and the mics are hot and something happens. We've heard from a lot of you listeners just how much this show has had an impact on you. We've heard from those of you who have been near your breaking point, and you heard something, you scrolled or you saw a headline for one of our episodes and just made the time to listen. And there was something in that for you that helped you go, okay, not today. And we've heard from others of you that have reached out to our guests and began to work with them and read their books and jump into their resources. I've probably heard from the most of you who have said Magic Mind is dope and you love it. Because that was obviously, if you listen to my episodes, that was our sponsor for like 2 years. Didn't re-up with Magic Mind. unfortunately. So you're not going to hear from them, I don't think, for a little while. But, they're like, yeah, thank you for this like supplement that is now a part of my daily routine, which is really cool. It's special, man. It's special to know like what we've done here. And, I think a tension I sit with is, and this is part of my work, a big part of my work is, 250,000 downloads. That's incredible. That's, we're well nestled in the top 1% of podcasts. We're well nestled in the top 20 of this category around the world. But then I'm like, but it has to be 1 million. It has to be bigger, this. We need to get 10,000 bigger. And it's been so incredible how I've had to wrestle with that tension. And it doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to be that big. It doesn't need to be top 10. It doesn't need to be sitting next to Joe Rogan and Mel Robbins, right? For it to still have impact. And speaking of, for me, like you all, I've said this a million times, I've claimed this, I only interview the people that I'm like geeking out on. I want to have the conversations that I'm geeking out on more than anything. And as you've all shared, it's typically reflected in our audience. They have those same interests. And yeah, man, I'm doing these interviews for you and for me as a husband and as a father and as a brother and a citizen. Like Meg Meeker, how strong fathers create strong daughters. That has been copy and pasted into how I show up as a dad. Read the book, did the interview, change. Oh, wow. Like I've changed things. And beyond in so many ways, all these different interviews I think about Chris Hemmings having the courage to come onto the show and talk about for the first time after being accused all over the internet of sexual assault and to actually tell his story. It had all been disproved, but he was able to tell his story of the pain of losing his work with the BBC and the schools. And so that courage, then for me to go like, oh yeah, I'm going to choose boldness today. I'm going to choose a layer deeper and choose vulnerability today because people were willing to do it, not knowing who was going to listen or what the repercussions might be. So yeah, powerful stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely bring it for me as well. And just because, there's a recency bias here, but the episode that I just posted this morning to the podcast is about research being done in South Africa about masculinity, peer connection, and reducing violence. And I've had so many conversations in the podcast that have just allowed me to expand my thinking about topics, and then also reinforced some of the foundations, some of the bedrock that we stand on in this work. Like the bedrock of the work is connection. The bedrock of the work is reducing our adherence to and reliance on models of masculinity that keep us in domination and subjection rather than being active, rather than taking actions in our lives and being responsible and it's debunked a lot of the tropes, like even our conversations, I'm going to go to Gillette again, right? Like talking about mythopoetic men's work and talking about the archetypes and talking about this stuff. And then what was Doug's feedback to you after all of those episodes? I've never been able to
we covered, we covered the magician archetype in greater depth in 1 hour than he and Moore did in the book, King Warrior Magician Lover. Yeah.
There's room to grow our stories, right? And I love that. I think that a through line of the podcast is like, we bring up lots of different kinds of stories that we tell about ourselves. And then we're pulling them apart from different angles and we're reinforcing parts of them. And we're like, it isn't all one viewpoint either. Like we've had lots of viewpoints.
Plenty of viewpoints. Yeah. And so, I want to shift energy towards, so that's what we get out of it and beyond and more, and so much that isn't said, but I want to shift my appreciation to you, my friend, because I came to you in 2018 with an idea of like, okay, we need to modernize MKP's marketing and like started a web show. And so we did Masks Off Monday. And all throughout that, you were like, sure.
Which was great.
Yep, sure. Yeah, Masks Off Monday. And just like a year, 60 episodes, over 2 million views. Like that became the ManKind podcast. And then I'm like, we need to turn this into a podcast. And you're like, okay. And then, I'll be like, oh, I think you were like, Brandon, you need to start getting paid for doing this. And I was like, oh, what do you think this? And you're like, no, double it. And I was like, oh, like, wow, like really? Like I'm generating that value. And it was just so affirming to me to be like, oh, wow, like I get to do this. I love it. And I get to be rewarded financially, in a little way that reminds me like, okay, I am also generating value that comes back to the organization. And so I just want to share my appreciation to you, man. Like you've just been nothing but a green light for me and a red light when you've needed to be, actually. Yeah. When you've needed to be. And I need that too. So man, I appreciate you. I love your interview style. I think that you should have your own segment on NPR because you've got NPR voice. Everyone I've introduced your episodes to say like, he has the most pleasant voice. I could hear him tell children's stories just to sleep at night. So there you go. I'm buttering you up.
Thank you for that. And is this a mutual admiration society moment? So, and you keep pushing me, damn it. You keep pushing me to expand my perspectives and to keep questioning and to keep not taking for granted some of the things. And Brandon and I don't always see eye to eye on everything. Like that's not what this has been about. And we've challenged each other in a good way. And I am always proud to point people at the podcast and, oh yeah, you should check out. Yeah. If the life hack thing, if the life hack is what you're about, oh yeah. You need to go listen to Brandon's episodes because the life hacks are all in there. It's all good.
Yeah. And if you want to go, if you want to go into the mythopoetic and, some of the deeper research and the story elements, I know a lot of people love that space. And so, you're going to get that with Boysen. And I love that we ask different questions.
We do.
You ask questions and I'm like, man, why didn't I think that? I just love, like, I don't know. It's like you look at these things from a 40 angle. So yeah, I love that we fill in those gaps together. And so question is, what's happening in the next 5 years? There you go. What do we do here? I mean, if we really, something, I want to own this. In the beginning of the show, we were way more edgy. Like way more, like Les Manoir, episode 19. Come on, let's talk about racism and just expose all of my racial biases. Alexander Castro, come on, let's talk about sexual violence and boys, and let's challenge some of the narratives so that people aren't getting accused of things they didn't do. What do we do to make sure that we open space for people that are getting accused that maybe they didn't do? Just doing things like that. And I'm not saying that we don't go there, but I think there was an element of danger in a sense that I guess it was a little sexy, or maybe we're just used to it now. I don't know.
Maybe we're just used to it now.
Because part of me is like, I don't want that stress in my life. And and actually looking back at the last 50 episodes, there's been a lot of that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good stuff. I'm going to turn the lens outward though. So you asked the question, what about the next 5 years? What about the next 50 episodes? What about the next 100 episodes? And I think we're getting more and more feedback from our listeners and put it out to the listeners again. It's like, okay, what do you want to hear more of? What do you want to hear? What additional stuff? We like guest recommendations. I know that there are guests on my guest list, guys who I would love to snag, authors that I would love to talk to, more people that I would like to get in. So, hey, share your connections, share your invitation, share your desire for what you want, and like and subscribe and share the podcast so that we can keep blowing up. And Brandon and I have done work just over the last couple of months in really expanding our social profile for the podcast and getting more clips out there. There will be a lot more of those coming. Those are awesome. they're really good, and they're getting us some traction. So more of that, please. What else?
We realized like we kept running into that. We need to be making clips for like 3 years, and then we're like, neither of us have the bandwidth to do that. So we hired someone, and thank you, Tim. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Tim.
So yeah, it's so exciting. I'm thinking the next 5 years, I'm going to be a different person in 2 weeks probably, and a different person in a year, and a different person, for me, if I can only think about what I can control, which is like, we really do complement each other. We stay out of each other's lanes in a lot of ways. Like we give each other guests, but I'm not saying, Boysen, you shouldn't do that, or you're not saying the same thing. Sometimes I have some ideas that I can tell you pucker up. You're like, oh no, come on, please do. But if I'm thinking about my direction as a host and the people or conversations I want to have, is really going to be kind of that good to great kind of place.
Cool.
Like, okay, so things are ticking, things are working, because in our work and in the show, we're always going to go deep and talk about when things suck. But we also recognize that some of you aren't in that place. And that, okay, what does it mean to go from good to great? What does it mean to go from like, okay, you know what, things are ticking, it works well, relationships are ticking along, but you know what? I want it to be this. I want it to be that. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that's where I'm going to be kind of shifting things, because I also know that when I'm in those low places, I don't want to stay there very long. I want to go there. I want to learn, but I want to get out of there. Sure. And we're learning this the more we interview mental health experts that specifically work with men. They're like, dudes need action. Dudes need accountability. Dudes need left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. I'm interviewing Trey Tucker today, who's a licensed counselor, and he's the founder of Rugged Counseling. He's just blowing up on TikTok right now. And he's challenging a lot of these ideas we have around like the traditional feminine therapy model that men get put into. And he's like, we need to challenge each other more and more and more. We're not saying bypass the work. We're not saying bypass the emotion or the depth, but where do we go from there? What's the roadmap? What's the plan? So that's where I'm thinking I'm probably going to start steering my interviews is, you're okay with your health. What does being absolutely in love with your health routine look like? You're doing good with money. What does it mean to be like incredibly financially responsible and secure? And just start hitting those other facets that are very real facets that we have to address every day as men. So that's my thinking if I'm looking out a year from now and beyond.
Cool.
What about you? What are you geeking out on? Where do you want to go? I'm
down with that. It's so funny. So today I'm looking backwards to look forwards. Today I'm interviewing Patricia Clayson, who is widely known as the grandmother of the New Warrior Training Adventure. She was the woman who was leading workshops in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that Bill Kauth and Ron Herring and Rich Tosi all went to before they created the New Warrior Training Adventure. And she has been
like a matriarch.
She has been for over 40 years leading transformative work with veterans and individuals doing this kind of stuff. And I'm going to continue to debunk stuff is what I'm going to continue to do. Like, okay, who am I learning about action in therapeutic settings from? Black women therapists. So is that feminization of therapy? Or is that we've made some choices along the way that have taken us down a path that we need to realign ourselves to what's healthy for human beings?
Yeah.
Can we see the whole human? Can we see the whole human? And that is action and being, right? That is pushing out and pushing in. That is all of these things. So I'm going to continue to complicate shit, and Brandon's going to continue to simplify shit. And that's what we're going to do.
Choose your own adventure. Look at the thumbnail and be like, look at the thumbnail and be like, it's a Boysen one. It's a Brandon one, and just see what season of life you're in. But there's so much crossover. There's so much crossover. Yeah. I think it's just seasons of life. Where are you? Where am I? What are we doing? And but Boysen said it earlier, like, yo, listeners, reach out. Like, reach out. You can do it through, there's a text link that you can send a text. Do me a favor, when you text us, put your name to an email so we can follow up, because we actually can't respond to those text messages. Or Brandon@BrandonCliff.com, communications@mkpusa.org. Like, you can reach out in those ways as well. But we want your feedback. Who do you want on? What direction do you want to go? I've heard from a lot of people that, what about the conservative voices? We don't hear that a lot these days in these kind of conversations. I do. I live in the South, and I can tell you mental health is very important and still very much an issue in conservative spaces. So yeah, we can bridge those gaps and divides and recognize that we as men collectively have a lot of work to do. Connection being the antidote, as we've proven time and time and time and time again.
Thank you. Connection being the antidote. There we are. So onward and upward.
Onward and upward, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for seeing me. And thank you for co-creating this beautiful space together. Here's to another 5 years.
Hear, hear. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you want the outro?
Thank you for joining us here on the ManKind podcast. Keep coming back. And as somebody I know has said frequently, you are the author of your future. So, my friend, pick up the pen.
Beautiful, brother. Lots of love, and we will see you next week. I'll be on paternity leave, so you'll be getting episodes from Boysen for a couple weeks, I imagine. But I'll be seeing you on the flip side.
Peace.
This has been another episode of the ManKind podcast, produced in association with the ManKind Project USA. We have been your host, Boysen Hodgson, and myself, Brandon Clift, and we want to thank our guests for joining us today and imparting their wisdom from their experiences in this amazing journey called life. If you want to find out more about today's guests and support them in their mission, you can find links to them in the show notes. Now, if you have found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, we are always grateful for a rating and review of the show on iTunes. Now, above all else, we've got to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you have made it possible for us to let men all over the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if something in this episode has touched you, then perhaps it is the call to action to get involved in men's work. With live trainings happening constantly and in-person trainings happening all over the world, the ManKind Project definitely has something for you. Now, if you've enjoyed the music in this episode and all of our episodes, be sure to check out Jim Donovan and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. And lastly, just know, what it means to me to be a man is completely different than what it means for you. That is the beauty of this journey. So if you are looking for guidance, support, and community as you begin to unpack and dive deeper into your men's work journey, then you know where to find us. Same place, same time, next week. Lots of love. We'll see you then.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the ManKind podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The ManKind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the ManKind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.